Let's shift our gears very quickly now, shall we, to sports news with Kayode Alayode.
Thank you very kindly, Gimba. Welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's home-based Eagles have failed to qualify for the 2020 African Nations Championship. Nigeria beat Togo 2-0 at the Agege Stadium in the second leg of the final qualifying round, but wasn't able to overturn the first leg deficit. The results means Togo's Sparrowhawks qualify for the tournament to be hosted by Cameroon next year. 4-3 on aggregate. Nigeria participated in the last 3 editions of the biennial tournament, but will now miss next year's edition. Meanwhile, home Eagles head coach Amapakabor has been reacting to the failure of the team to qualify for next year's African Nations Championship. Amapakabor said tactical blunders from the first leg in Lomé last month was responsible for the ouster.
Games are like, I say it all the time, you know, the circumstance in our first game is quite different from this one that we have now. You know, we had a bit of time. We also got to know the Togo team a little bit too, you know, to match faces to whichever tactics or formation they are going to play. So I think 2 different games, we've been able to play 3. We won this game. Unfortunately, the result wasn't good enough for us to qualify because I think technically we made some blunders in the first game, which has cost us dearly.
A sad one indeed, but Kebbi Beach Soccer Club will depart the country today for Alanya, Turkey to compete at the World Winners' Cup. Former Sand Eagles goalkeeper coach Abdullahi Issa, who's been preparing the team for the championship, is confident the Kebbi Fishers will impress and achieve good experience that will develop the sport in the country. And that will be Sports News tonight. Many thanks for watching. Back to you, Gimba.
Mozambique's main opposition party has called for Tuesday's elections to be cancelled, citing violence and fraud. Renamo accuses the ruling party, Frelimo, of violating the August peace deal between the two sides. A European Union observer mission said that the elections were marred by an uneven playing field, violence and a climate of fear. A Frelimo spokesman dismissed the EU statement as unfounded, saying that the elections passed off smoothly. With parliamentary results in from about a third of the polling stations, President Filipe Nyusi has a commanding lead in the presidential race with about 70% of the votes. Renamo's Osufo Momade is trailing with about 25%. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says that he will press on undaunted with his Brexit strategy despite losing a vital vote in the House of Commons. He has vowed to introduce legislation needed to implement his agreement in Parliament next week. But he will have to ask the EU for an extension beyond October the 31st after MPs backed a motion designed to rule out a no-deal exit by 322 votes to 306.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson suffers yet another Brexit setback as UK lawmakers vote to delay approval of his departure deal until Parliament has passed the legislation required to enact it. Lawmakers voted 322 to 306 for the Letwin Amendment, put forward by former Tory lawmaker Oliver Letwin. Mr Johnson must now ask the EU for an extension to the Brexit process until the end of January, an outcome he has been determined to avoid since he returned in triumph from Brussels with a new deal earlier this week. Adamant, he says he will not negotiate a Brexit delay with the EU.
I will not negotiate a delay with the EU. And neither does the law compel me to do so. I will tell our friends and colleagues in the EU exactly what I've told everyone in the last 88 days that I've served as Prime Minister, that further delay would be bad for this country, bad for our European Union, and bad for democracy. So next week, the government will introduce the legislation needed for us to leave the EU.
And the main news again. Again, police bursted another illegal correctional center in the Rigasa area of Kaduna, freed 147 inmates. Some of the female inmates also said they were sexually abused in the illegal rehabilitation camp. The state government has said that the operators of the facility will not go unpunished. And that's all.